Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Britt, creator of The Style Shaker, your guide to cleaner, greener beauty, skincare, and more. And today I'm back with a comparison, basically a battle between two very popular concealers. I am comparing the INIKA new full coverage concealer to the Hynt Duet Perfecting Concealer. The Hynt concealer has been a favorite of mine for a very long time. It's kind of a cult favorite, if you want to use that, cult favorite. And the INIKA concealer, this is their second concealer. Their first one I did not like. This one I actually reviewed pretty highly. I really liked it. If you want to learn more about these, then stick around and let's get into it. So I purchased these products and then just received a refresher for the Hynt Duet Perfecting from the brand in the shade medium. I have it in light. I've been using it in light and I wanted to try a shade darker and they reached out. So I'm just giving you all the details and being fully transparent. The opinions that you're getting here are my own, always honest, always transparent with you. If you appreciate that honesty and you find these reviews really helpful, please take the time to like and subscribe so you never miss another one. So I'm just gonna run through the main differentiators. If you see cat ears, that's my cat. She's just sitting on the desk in front of me. So we will kick it off with price. The INIKA is $33. It's a big price tag for a small container, I get that. I said the same thing in my review. The Hynt Duet Perfecting is $24, so it's almost a $10 price difference. Yay, arithmetic. That's the first difference, but there's so much more. What about ingredients? How do the ingredients compare? Both ingredients lists here are very solid, they're pretty clean, and there is a differentiator, however. The Hynt actually has coconut oil derivatives. This is gonna be a big deal for people who cannot use coconut oil or anything coconut on their face because it is pore clogging. I'm saying that because the INIKA currently does not have, from what I've seen, coconut oil derivatives in there. First ingredient for this concealer is castor seed oil, which is one of my favorites for lashes and stuff like that. First in this is caprylic capric triglyceride. I don't even know if I said that right. I am not a cosmetic chemist, nor do I ever claim to be one, but I did research it as a consumer. It's usually a combination of a coconut oil and glycerin. I just wanted to share that with you. It's going to be a big deal for people who want to try and avoid coconut oil. I kind of didn't think of that off the bat, but I'm kind of glad I'm doing this comparison for that reason, and there are so many others that I'm about to get to. Next up, application. There was a pretty big difference in application. I was kind of surprised because I hadn't been using the Hynt for a long time. I hadn't been on heavy rotation, and to note again, I was coming off of this really big high off of testing the INIKA because I was like, this is amazing, I'm using it all the time. The INIKA, when it applied, it is a little bit thicker of a formula. It's a denser formula than the Hynt Duet Perfecting Concealer. The INIKA goes on pretty well with the finger. If I used a brush, it showed a little bit of texture for me, so I applied it that way with the finger and I pressed it into the skin. I did really like it, but when comparing it to the Hynt, it's very different. So the Hynt is smoother, thinner, feels a little bit slicker, and it really glides on nicely. It works really well with a brush. In terms of building, the INIKA didn't build as well for me. It built up, but it created a little bit of texture. I think that has to do with a richer, denser formula. For my skin, it's not necessarily the best. I have combination skin. It's not super oily under there. I think it could be a little bit tricky for oilier skin types. Maybe for drier skin types, it could be a little bit better because it's more emollient and richer. I don't know, but you can tell me in the comments. So for building, it was okay. And then for the Hynt, when I wanted to build this, I feel like it built a little bit easier, built a little bit smoother. There was less texture. There was really no texture. It was very much so a natural looking finish. Coverage. So the coverage for the INIKA was really nice. It just shows up more when you're comparing it to something like the Hynt Duet Perfecting Concealer, which was really interesting because I haven't done things like this in the past, so even I was like, huh. The coverage here, I found it to really need a little bit of pressing in, more so than the Hynt, to get even coverage. It does get there, and it looks nice and natural, but it did take a little bit longer than the Hynt. With the Hynt, I used a very small amount on my finger, and I just pressed it in, and I could build it, and the coverage was very surprisingly even. It just glided across. I didn't have to mess with it to get it to evenly cover. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a better or worse performing product. It just is kind of a personal preference in terms of application. If the finish looks off, then obviously you're gonna prefer one to the other. But this, I felt like a little bit went a long way. Dabbed my finger in there and I pressed it under the eye, I did it on top of the eye, and I could bring it everywhere else and it was still really paying off. So that little bit goes a very long way. With the INIKA, I found it to kind of stretch a bit, but it wasn't the same as the Hynt in that respect. Okay, so this was interesting too, actually, the finish, and I didn't notice this until I compared the two of them. Sometimes concealers can be a little bit shiny looking. I don't prefer that, and it kind of leads to setting. The Hynt actually gave a less shiny finish than the INIKA. I think it's because this was the more dense formula. I keep saying that, maybe richer is the better word. It was just a little bit thicker. I'm not saying it was necessarily, well, it was definitely heavier than the Hynt, but I think maybe that's why it gave that kind of a sheen to it. So I wanted to set this. I didn't have to, and I said that in my initial review, but when I look at these two side by side, this is the one that would probably need a bit more setting as opposed to the Duet Perfecting Concealer. The more brightening option, I do feel like because of the evenness of the coverage, I'm not gonna judge this solely based on shade because that can be a big variable, right? If I have a lighter shade, which I did in the initial phases of this testing, then this, so if my Hynt was a bit lighter than INIKA, and of course it's gonna look like it's brightening a tad more. Still, I tried it with the medium shade. I don't have footage of that, but I tried it with both and it did brighten more than the INIKA. I felt like it just popped more, which for some is going to be a positive if you have really dark circles and you really want that brightening without having it look too built up or too kind of thick in texture. For others, you might want a more natural look, in which case you might be leaning towards the INIKA product. Multitasking, how do these work for spot treatment? Like I said earlier, the Hynt is a really good spot treatment. I could bring it everywhere. I just put it on the finger and then it's like bop, 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 bop. You're done. Blends in and melts in and doesn't sit on top. The INIKA worked well for spot treatment. It just didn't work as easily as the Hynt did. I think it's because of the lightweight and probably the coconut oil. I don't really know, but all I know is that it just didn't blend in as easily. Once I got it there, it was okay. It just was a slight difference. Creasing. When I built up both of these concealers, the Hynt still creased a little bit. I rarely see a concealer not crease on me unless I spend a ton of time with application, and I just don't because I'm lazy like that. Personal preference. If we're looking and judging this based off of something where you don't want to spend a ton of time on it and you want to just press it into the skin and go out the door, the Hynt was better there. I found it to not crease as much. I would still potentially set it, especially if it's going to be a warm day or humidity. Depends on the variables of your lifestyle and location. The INIKA, I found that I didn't, again, have to set it when it was just one layer, but if I built on that, then setting was a must. Like, I would absolutely want to set it because it was too shiny, and I find that that makes me look a little kind of just tired and washed out at the end of the day, which, P.S., I will get to the wear test very soon because they were different. In terms of setting, now that I've said that both of them, I could set them, especially the Hynt if I built it, they both set really well. I had no issues there with the transparent powder, no problems, really nothing different to note between the two of them on setting. The wear test, I wore both of these for 8 hours, and at the end of the day, I looked at them closely, very, very, very up close. I scrutinized the heck out of this stuff. So I saw really two things that were different. First, one kind of got a little bit dull throughout the course of the day. It lost its oomph more so than the other, and it had a little bit more creasing. And I'm guessing at this point, you know which one I'm talking about. Like, nod your head if you know which one I'm talking about. Yeah, you do. The INIKA did not wear as well as the Hynt. It held up nicely, but when you compare it to one of the higher performing concealers out there, in my opinion, it almost hit it, but it didn't hit it. It didn't hit it for me in terms of holding up for the rest of the day. You know, honestly, if you couldn't tell already, my personal opinion here, and my word is certainly not gospel on products, everybody's skin type is very, very different. You have to consider that in these reviews. What works for me might not work for you and vice versa, right? So for me, I'm choosing the Hynt because it was just easier. It covered nicely. I don't mind coconut oil. I liked the price, lasted a little bit better. I mean, like, the list is long. What's interesting to me is that I really did like the INIKA. I really do still like the INIKA. It's just getting edged out and beat out a little bit by this. That's my choice based off of this and your own personal use of these products if you have them. What do you think? I would love to know your thoughts on these concealers or any other concealers that you like out there, specifically pot concealers. Thank you so much for watching this. Again, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more like it. And I'm gonna go compare a bunch of other products and pet my cat, who's just kind of like hanging out in my lap right now, and she says hi. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you right back here real soon. Until then, bye. Now I totally forgot what I was saying. I think there's a fruit fly in here, and I think I'm gonna lose my mind. Anyway,